Hey students, this is Mr. Dowd and this is your Tech 1 text or type assignment in Adobe Illustrator. I am starting from my very messy desktop on a Windows computer. Remember, Adobe apps are for Windows computers. They will not work on your Chromebook, unfortunately. We're going to go to the lower left to the Start menu, and you will look at the Adobe products that are right near the top under the A alphabetically, and you are going to select Adobe Illustrator for this assignment. And remember, it is likely going to ask you to sign in with your school Google account. When you get to the opening page, this is where you select your file size. We're just going to go with the letter right here. This will be a printer paper sized canvas that we will work on. And so here we have it, and we are going to use the text, or as they say in Illustrator, the type tool. And we are going to learn how to manipulate text in a few different cool ways. So the first way is just the very basic Adobe type tool. It's right here. It's the T in the toolbar. By the way, if your toolbar looks different, if it's just a single row, and that's okay for this assignment, up here in Window is where you can choose your toolbars. And so you can select more of these items if you want to. All right, I'm going to select the type tool and I'm going to click, and it's going to put in some random made up words right in here, and it's highlighted. I'm just going to use my name, and you're welcome to use your name or a word or short phrase that is, of course, school appropriate. Now, I'm in the type tool, and if I look over here to the right, I have some text properties that are showing up in this toolbar over here. So here is where I can look at my font. So my fonts are over here. I can select the font for it that I want to. I'll go with something fun. Oops. Now, I have unselected this, so my choice didn't do anything. I'm just going to grab my selection arrow, and I'm going to click. By the way, I want to see it bigger. I'm going to just stretch it out so I can see it. Now, I can go over here and I can select a font that is fun. And you'll notice in the selection arrow, I can just move it around like that. And then the other thing over here that I can do is I can give it a fill. I can change the color of it, about falcon green. And then the other thing I can do with the stroke setting is I can give it an outline. I can choose a color for an outline. You can see a very thin black outline showed up because it's one point. I can click the arrow here. I can increase the size of the outline. I have other settings that I can do. I can choose a font size. If I want to, I can choose how it is arranged on the canvas with my paragraph tools. I can also go down here and I can center in the align tool. I can center it in the canvas, both left to right and up and down. And then of course I can always free move it with the selection tool. I'm just going to keep mine up at the top. So this is the first part of this type assignment, is you are going to drag out the text tool. You're going to type your name or a short word or phrase. You're going to change the font. You're going to change the color. You're going to add a stroke. The next video is going to show you how to further manipulate the text. For the second part of our type assignment, we are going to go ahead and grab that type tool again. We can type the same thing that we did before, or we can type a new phrase. You will notice that it has defaulted to the font I used previously. So, computer science for innovators and makers is cool, is what I'm going to type. And I'm just, for fun, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to change the font. I think for this one, I do want some fairly thick letters. Let me go. Here we go. And again, I can adjust all of this. You will also notice that as you hover over, you will get little change in symbols or sometimes a little pop-up window. By hover over, I mean my arrow, my mouse. So like this says anchor when I'm there. We're not worrying about anchor points yet, but we will shortly. I am going to go ahead and choose a fill color. I'm going to give this an outline. All right, now I am going to, what I want to do is I want to blend. I want to create a three-dimensional looking object out of this text. So I've got my nice, healthy, thick font that I've chosen. I want to make this text look like it's a three-dimensional object. So what I'm going to do is click with the selection arrow, and I am going to Control-C copy and Control-V paste. Now I have a second one. And with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the fill color to black. So now I have it. And I can do this several ways. I can do it off to the lower left, off to the lower right. I can do it upper. What I want to create is perspective, like you're seeing this three-dimensional type object from an angle. So I'm just going to do it like this. The other way I could do it is looking like it was rising up from below, and I could center it. But again, I'm going to Control-Z, undo my last thing. I'm just going to make this a little bit lower and to the left. All right. So now it's covering my original text, and I want this to go behind my text. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to arrange, and I'm going to send to back. So now it is like a shadow behind my text, which is kind of cool on its own. And I can still manipulate that if I want to move it a little bit. I can also use the arrow keys, and it will move it just small little increments as I do. Now, what I want to do is blend. I want to blend the dark shape with, I want to blend my first text object with my second one that I made. So what I'm going to do is first, in order to do that blend command, I have to click and drag over both of those objects, and I have to go up to Object and Group. This is going to put these together. Now you can see I can move them together with just a click. Once I've done that, I'm going to blend. There's two ways I can do it. I can grab the blend tool from over on the right here, and if I click that, I can just click the top one and then the bottom one, and it's going to signal that it is these two objects are now going to blend together. And then, or I can just go to Object, Blend, and I can select Make. Now you can see it's put an intermediate step in here. What I want to do now is I want to go back to Object, because I don't want just one step. I want multiple steps so it looks like a solid object. So I'm going to go to Blend, and notice the Make option is not available anymore. So I'm going to go to Blend Options. And here from Smooth Color, I'm telling the computer now, don't guess what I want. I want to specify. I want to be specific. And instead of one step, I want, let's say, 35 steps. I want 35 copies of this to go from my top layer to my bottom object. And now I'm going to click OK. Now look at that. I'm going to grab my selection arrow again, and now I've got what looks like a block of three-dimensional type. So that is your blend tool, and that's pretty cool. Okay, if you thought the blend tool was cool, check this out. I'm going to again put some type in. I'm going to click here, and I am going to just type something in, and I'm going to select it. I'm going to size it, and I will go ahead and change the font again. So I'm just going to do the same thing I've done before. I'm going to go ahead and select a fill color. I'm going to go ahead and select the stroke color. I think this time I'll maybe go with something besides black. There I have it. And again, you can play with this for how you like it. You can see, like, it can get ridiculous and kind of defeat the purpose of having a fill color. So think about how you want your finished piece to look as you're designing these. I'm maybe one less for this particular font. I'm going to manipulate this text by turning it into an arch. And to do that, I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go to Envelope Distort. And I'm going to select Make with Warp. Now you can see it automatically changed my text, and it defaults at the arc. I said I wanted an arch, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to select arch. The arc is going to bend the text like a fan. The arch is going to make it look like the text itself has formed an arch. And then right here, I can determine how much of an arch or how little of an arch it is. You can go into the negative, so I can bend it down below that way. I'm just going to set it at like about, I like it when it's about like 30%, right, like that. And then you've got a little bit of distortion. You can twist it to pinch it on one side or the other. You can see you can get pretty crazy with it, but you can really determine, you have a lot of ways that you can manipulate how this text looks. So go ahead and make yourself an arch. So there you have your arch text, and that's pretty cool. And there's also ways to further manipulate these images. But we've got to learn one more thing. I'm going to show you that in the next section of the video. The final thing I'm going to show you is how you can fill by using a clipping mask, how you can change the color of your text to be a gradient of colors, or even an image that you paste in from outside. Let me show you an example. And just to save time, I'm going to go ahead. Well, no, never mind. I'm going to the text tool. I'm going to go with my name again. Select it. I'm going to make it large. And I really want to show this. I want a thick font this time. So I'm going to go grab something like that. And so there it is, a nice thick font. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here, because the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the rectangle tool. All right. And if I go up here and click and hold, I can do several different shapes, but what I really want right now is a rectangle, and I'm going to cover my name with a rectangle. Now, I can go over here and select a color. I can give it a stroke outline if I want to, but I'm going to get a little trickier, and on my toolbar is the gradient tool, and if I click that and then select my rectangle, I guess double click, then I now have a gradient. It's going to default from black to white in that rectangle. Now, if you're saying, but I don't want black and white, no problem. You can click in the dots on the edges and you can then select a different color. I want that color. And I'm going to go to this side and I can click and I can select yet another color. There. Now I can move sort of where they blend like this. I can also move where you want it solid and where you don't. So you can manipulate your gradient. Now, I've got that. I'm going to go back to my selection tool. Here's the cool part. I'm going to right click. I'm going to, oops. Right click. I'm going to arrange. I'm going to send to back. So I've got my text on top of my rectangle. And then I'm going to just kind of move things where I want them in the shape. Now I've got my text selected. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and then I'm going to click on the rectangle behind it. And now what I've done is I've selected them both. You could also start from off of both images and you could click and drag over them. But you want the text on top. Now, once I've got them both selected together, I'm going to go to Object and I'm going to select Clipping Mask. And then I'm going to select Make. Now look at that. My name, my text has taken on that gradient color behind it. You can also paste in any image and you can do the same clipping mask with your text and your text will take on that portion of the image that is covered by your text. And you can also at this point add a stroke to it if you want to. So there it is for your text assignment. I would like you to turn in to the Google Classroom these 4 text objects. One is just a font you choose where you have changed the color and given it an outline. One where you have used the blend tool to make your text a 3-dimensional object. One where you have used the envelope distort to make an arc or an arch or otherwise bend the text. And then a 4th one where you have done a clipping mask with either a gradient or a picture that you paste in to serve as the fill color for your type or your text object, as I call it. That's it. A lot of cool stuff. Get these done and turn them in to the Google Classroom.